Hey everybody, welcome back. HSC Podcast 94. Got Big Box Steve on the mic and the Big Smooth. No Fresh West tonight. Today we're going to be getting into the New Year's Day college football, talking pro football last week of the season. Uh, what else happened in football? Pro Bowl rosters came out. Not exciting as it used to be. Fantasy football's in its final week for everybody. Most teams, yeah, everybody's done now, right? So this will be the last week for everybody.
Hmm.
So that's what we're getting to today. So if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, Spotify, thanks for listening. Appreciate it. And any comments or what you'd like to hear. When we run out of football season, we're gonna need some topics. So hopefully we can get some listeners speaking up because you know what you're gonna get. You get a lot of movies.
Yeah.
You get a lot of movies. Uh, so kind of wrapping up the season here, with the final week coming in, pretty good. I didn't feel like we did that well in our picks, but not too bad. We're sitting at like 65 to 68% or so. Wes is leading the way, 7 games ahead of us, but we had a pretty similar year to last year, surprisingly. So, really not too bad on the picks this year. So it did pretty well. We'll be talking about playoff picks next week, which we didn't do great on. Not as well as we did last year.
Yeah. You mean for our who we picked at the beginning of the year?
Yeah. To talk about who we picked to make it preseason.
Well, to preface this, this is a weird year because of how many quarterbacks have gone down.
Right. A lot of injuries.
I mean, where would the Jets have been if Aaron Rodgers would have stayed healthy, right? I
Sure.
mean,
Well, and then I mean there's a lot of that. Like what if the Raiders were playing like they're playing right now? What if the Bears played early in the season like they played right now? What if Kirk Cousins didn't get hurt? Where would Minnesota be? There's a lot of teams I think that are, and I mean, we don't know what the Colts would have done with Anthony Richardson all year,
right.
right? They're probably going to make the playoffs here with Uncle Rico. so, um, so yeah, there's a lot. You're right. There's a lot, right? But you know what? They could have all went out and got Joe Flacco.
That's right.
Joe Flacco has more touchdowns this month or last month than Kenny Pickett has his whole career.
Yep. I know. Uncle Joe.
Can you imagine if that was your stat line and your Cody Pickett? I can't even call him Kenny. I can't even give him his real name.
Well, he's benched for Mason Rudolph. Did you see that?
Yeah.
He's a healthy number two now. He's the number two quarterback.
I mean, why wouldn't you? Why would you play him? It's not like he gives you anything at number one,
No.
healthy. Mason Rudolph is not the greatest, but how can he play worse?
Well, that's what people are saying. Are like, how did Mitch Trubisky beat Mason Rudolph? When
Right.
he-
Well, that I think is probably more of an experience thing. That'd be my guess.
yeah,
More games played, more experience. But that's going to be an interesting game. We'll talk about that. But um, let's get into college football. I mean, first of all, I don't know, I'm super disappointed in the bowl games. Not that I say the playoff games,
yeah.
but
The rest of the
all the
bowls,
other bowl games, with all the players in the transfer portal and not playing, and then some of the matchups they had, um, it just didn't make this year of watching college football, bowl week or the real end of it, the Power Bowls, that exciting.
yeah. They need to make the transfer portal after the season. It's
Yeah.
like, what is the point of doing it before all the games are over?
Yeah, I think it's about like their semesters or something.
Hmm. Gotcha.
Like when it's like time when that happens, because aren't they ending a semester right now? Or they when they do that?
Yeah,
So I don't know if they actually do they care about school anymore. I don't know
probably
that they
not.
do. But yeah, it is. You should really go after the season, right? It's kind of crazy that all
Well,
these
then
happen.
open up the transfer portal. I mean, for the next year, right? I mean, you're not going to be practicing at all
Yeah.
once the season's over. I mean, until spring.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna start spring camp, right? So that's really only what, 2, 3 months away, or 3, 4 months away.
Yeah.
So not terribly long, but yeah, so do it right at the bowl season. It's kind of crazy. Because then you get, I mean, like the Missouri Ohio State game, right? First of all, it's an awful game to watch. And then, Missouri ends up winning after being 3-0 the whole game. They score two touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and it's just like, I don't know. It was painful to watch that game. And then Ohio State's coming out, saying, well, this, and this. And so you don't really, there's no clear winners of some of these games.
Right. Well, I mean, look at USC. Their quarterback goes out there and throws 6 touchdown passes,
Right.
right? I mean, why couldn't you do that, Florida State? Right? Why
Yeah.
couldn't you do that, Ohio State?
Yeah. I guess their backup's not as good, right?
Yeah, and that's what irritates me so much is Florida State
Well, this
because
was
huh?
brutal. This game was brutal.
Well, it's all be oh well, it doesn't count. Well, we didn't have enough. Boo hoo. You know what? If you were Georgia, probably feels slighted just as much as you, but you know what they did? They came out and played.
Right.
They didn't cry. They didn't get all butthurt. They didn't say we're going to leave the ACC. I mean, it's like there's the biggest whiners.
Yeah. And then Georgia had plenty of players in the transfer portal and injured and stuff like that, you know?
Right.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't back, or Milton, but your running back opted out. So did your best receiver, one of the best receivers in the country, opted out. So
Well, I
that's your own
mean,
fault,
Georgia's best player, Brock Bowers, didn't play.
right? But 63-3, and it's like 42-3 at halftime. Even their Georgia's backup quarterback came in and threw a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And they were like, oh, this doesn't matter. Yeah, it does matter. Why should the committee have picked you if you weren't even going to
Right.
try?
You're kind of damaging your future stock, I think, when you do that, when that happens. Because now it's almost like they're like, oh, look, we did the right thing, right? The comedian's like, we did the right thing by not playing them. You can make all the excuses that you didn't have all your players, but that's nobody's gonna let you use that.
Right.
They're gonna say, look, you got washed, and that's why you shouldn't be in there, and next time we won't put you in there again.
Yeah, because who says they're not, all those people weren't going to go in the transfer portal and sit out if they made it?
Yeah. Yeah, that was just a brutal beating too. Like I think that's like most in bowl history, right? 60
Well, I
points, something
think
like
wasn't
that.
TCU the most? Did
Uh,
TCU?
well, the most points, but was that the largest margin of victory?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. May have been that one.
Yeah, it was. They were talking some. They had some record of on the points or the victory. Um, that was brutal. And then you got Oregon playing Liberty. It's like you didn't know it was going to come out and be 45-6.
Well, you know what? There you go, though. Oregon, what did they do? Bo Nix is like, I'm playing.
Yeah.
And Oregon was like, we're not going to let a Cinderella team beat us. They didn't
Oh,
take them lightly all, and they
no, they weren't messing
destroyed
around.
them.
I
What's your
mean, Bucky Irvin played, rushed for 100 yards. Bo Nix threw for 5 touchdowns.
That's what you're supposed to do. That's how you do
Yeah.
it. You don't get your Cinderella Boise States with the Statue of Liberty plays. They did what they should have, they're supposed to do. And that was it's good. It's like Oregon. That's why when the final number like poll comes out, Oregon should be ahead of Florida State.
They probably will. I mean, after you get beat like that, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And then a couple other bowl games, which Oregon State gets blown out. The Ole Miss Penn State was a pretty good game. Who else? Tennessee or not Tennessee? LSU Wisconsin was a good game. Tennessee spanked Iowa. Didn't say much for that Iowa defense that they talked so
Yeah.
much about. Or the Arizona Oklahoma. That was a really good game.
Yeah.
I had a feeling Arizona was going to win that game. Boy, that I don't know if you see that receiver for Arizona, that
Oh yeah.
6'5" guy or whatever he is. Man, he's going to be real good.
Hmm.
It's going to be tough to stop him down the road. So let's talk a little bit about the big games. So I think we both had Michigan and Washington. No, you had Alabama.
I had Alabama.
Oh
And if
yeah,
they would have just ran the freaking ball, they would have won that game easily. Instead,
yeah,
like, dude, you get it sacked like 20 times. Why was Alabama throwing on first down? That's what I couldn't believe. It's like
right.
your running backs are running for almost 8 yards a carry. And
Yeah,
they're like,
it
"Oh, we're
didn't.
going to pass the ball." And then you get second down and like 18.
It didn't look like Michigan's defensive line was holding up that well against Alabama's offensive line. That's for sure.
Well, the running, Alabama could push them on the run. On the
Yeah,
pass, they had no answers for Michigan's D line.
right.
And so that, I mean, even in the end, like, what was the play calling by Alabama? That was
That
ridiculous.
the late game play calling was very very questionable. Uh, and that last play of the game, I get it that you want you know him moving with the ball, right? But you don't want him running right up the middle with no option to throw.
Well,
Like you
I
want to
think
get him rolling out,
what happened was, and he's in the transfer portal now. Their center was horrible and had so many bad snaps.
he did
He
have
was
quite a
the
few.
Jim Olsen of the college football
Jim
playoffs.
Olsen.
And I think the play was designed to be an RPO, but it was low. And so then Milroy panicked and went up the middle because he had the running back in the flat wide open with
Right.
two receivers there blocking. So if it was a good snap, I think they were going to run the RPO.
Running some kind of RPO because it was
Yeah,
yeah, when he got the ball and he just went straight up the middle, you're like, there's no chance.
right.
There's no chance. And so that was the game. That was tough. But Michigan, you give them a little bit of credit, especially there in the fourth. Didn't look great for them, but they came back. They made a real nice drive. And then in overtime, Corum just a couple
Oh, yeah.
really great runs. So, they earned it. I don't, it almost seemed like that was the national championship games. And then before I watched the Texas Washington game, and I kind of still think it is after I watched the game. Texas and Washington. What did you think of that game?
Texas should, or Washington should have won like 50 to, I don't know. They just kept letting Texas get back in.
Yeah,
If you want like the eye test, Washington was the much better team. but
But
they kept,
mistake after mistake
yeah,
after mistake.
and they got conservative, and yeah.
It's almost like that you don't know what it's like to be there feeling. That's what I kind of felt like. It's like they weren't ready for the big moment. Yeah,
Well,
they pulled it out because Texas, that last drive at Texas was the play calling was horrible too, right there when they had a chance at the end.
well, I don't get the thing that irritates me is why is there not a rule for this? So Washington's running out the clock, and Texas guy reams on Washington's running back's ankle, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So dead ball. So that would, if they wouldn't have done a dead ball there, that would have taken like 40 seconds off the clock.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's been like 10, 15 seconds, 10 seconds
So,
left.
like, how is that appropriate for an injury timeout to not start the clock up?
Right. Well, why aren't you just taking a knee anyway?
Yeah,
That's the problem I had with that. When they first started that drive, first thing I said was, why are you not taking a knee? Even what's his name? The announcer, the old Alabama quarterback, McElroy, is that his name? Something like that.
McElroy.
McElroy, yeah. He even said he's like, why are they not taking a knee right now? Because what worst case scenario, you take a knee, right? You run it down to 9 seconds, 10 seconds, you punt the ball. Or best case scenario. Worst case scenario, if you're running the ball, you could fumble, you could
Yeah,
get the injury timeout, you could have a bad snap, bad exchange. Like all of those things can happen.
right.
And
But that can
so,
also happen on a punt too.
right, but that's one play versus three, running and
Right,
exchanging, right? So, yeah, I get that. But even if you just take the knee at 9 seconds, give them the ball there, you're still up, 6 points. So
yeah,
there's, it was crazy to me that they were running the ball. And not to say that they deserved it, but you kind of did. Like you don't play smart, bad things are going to happen.
right. Although if they would have got a first down, the game's over.
Yeah, of course. Right. But I'd rather take knees without the chance and give them 9 seconds to go 80 yards. That would be my game plan.
What would have done if Devin Hester's back there?
Well, and then they decide, how do you get a fair catch interference? Like he's fair catching it. Why are you even going close to
Right.
it?
Yeah,
Because
that
they're
was
rushing everybody. They're rushing
right.
10 guys to block it, right? So they have no blockers. He's guaranteed a fair catch
Oh,
because
yeah,
he
I
doesn't want
forgot
to use
about.
any time.
How about the Michigan one, where the dude tries to catch it on the 4 yard line?
Oh yeah.
That's almost cost them the game.
Right. Well, Michigan made a few mistakes there late in the game too. Block in the back by Roman Wilson.
Right.
That was costly. Luckily he made a big play later, but the tip ball that McCarthy threw to Roman Wilson that somehow went off the guy's hands right to Wilson for that big play,
And they
just off
lucked
his
out that the
fingertips.
first interception didn't count.
Right. Yeah, but Michigan had as many mistakes as you could make, especially on special teams.
Yeah.
So for them to Alabama definitely could have taken more advantage as well. But overall, I think the best two teams won the
Yeah.
games. What about this Michigan Washington game?
Well, I think we're going to be split here because I'm going to take Washington here. I
Stick with
think
Washington, huh?
I think Washington's strengths take care of Michigan's weaknesses. And having the number one offensive line in the nation up against. So
But
they're
they're not
going
going
to
to have their
run the
running back
ball.
though, right?
No, he's playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Like
they
after
said he's
getting
playing.
carted off, huh?
Yeah, his
Almost costing
x-rays are
them the
negative.
game.
X-rays are negative, and there's probably a bunch of to get him going.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're gonna.
Plus,
Get some good
you
drugs in
know,
him.
the old adage, I'm taking the best quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. Penix is definitely a better quarterback. That's for sure. And he looked pretty good last game as far as his just level of confidence, the way he was seeing the field. He's got great vision. So that's going to be important for him because they're going to put pressure on him.
Right.
I think they're going to
Yep.
have a lot more pressure than Texas put on him.
But he has what they call functional mobility. He can move around in the pocket and get out of the
Right.
pocket. Milroy, he has no awareness whatsoever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was some pressure. I'm going to try and run. But you could even see in the Washington Texas game, there would be a blitz and Penix is about ready to get hit and he dumps it off.
Yeah. Yeah. He definitely, like you said, he was seeing the field really, really well, especially under pressure. Uh, I don't know that I would put Texas defense up next to Michigan's though in any way, So, but when you look at it, I think that's what it's going to come down to is can Penix get rid of the ball quick enough, get it to open receivers, find which one of his guys because he's got a good trio is going to be the most open, right, or in the holes, out there.
Right.
Because, like I said, Michigan's defense is pretty good top to bottom. They're good in secondary. They're good on the defensive line, and they stop the run well. So
Well,
everything,
they didn't stop it well against Alabama, though.
well, you got those guys up front at Alabama. I don't know who's stopping them.
Well, they couldn't
You,
pass block, but
yeah, but those guys are hogs.
yeah.
You just get behind them and you follow. But Washington's offensive line is good too, right? So it's a bonus for them.
Well, they're number one in the country.
Yeah, like what AP rating though? Come on.
Well, this was voted by like all the people. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think they're number one in the country, but I'd rather have
well,
somebody
Alabama is
else's.
probably like number like 50th in the country, and they
And Michigan's got some injuries on their offensive line too, so that doesn't help them. Huh. Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, you're looking at both what you got 1 and 2, right? They're both
yeah
14-0. Michigan looks like they're the favorite.
yeah. Well, Texas and Oregon were favorites also. Yeah, Michigan's a 4.5 point favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to stay with Michigan. So we're gonna be split on that one. It's a tough one though, because the thing is it's either gonna be a pretty close game. Michigan's gonna ball control the game, keep it close, win in a close game, or Washington could win by 21. If Michigan can't figure out Washington's offense, they could be in trouble.
Right.
But they do have one of the best defenses, right?
Right.
They're the number one defense in the nation. So,
Oh yeah,
but
when you get to play Iowa and Penn State and stuff, of course you're gonna have
yeah,
one of the number one defenses,
there's not a lot of offense in the Big Ten, right?
except for Ohio State, right?
Ohio State, yeah.
And
I
even them
mean,
were kind of down this year too.
yeah, it's because their quarterback is trash.
Yeah. But I can't think of a team in the Big Ten that had a great offense.
No, it's a defensive conference for sure.
Right. Whereas Pac-12 is an offensive conference.
Tons of offense for sure.
Yeah. So that's where, like you said a few pods ago, like rankings and everything in college are skewed so differently because of the talent you play against.
Right. Well, and this is where the rubber meets the road when you think about it,
Right.
especially when you're talking Pac-12, Big Ten. It's like you saw Iowa, who was supposed to have this great defense, go and just get 35 nothing against Tennessee, right? An SEC team.
Right.
So who knows, what that really translates to when you're talking about Big Ten defense.
Well, Washington's averaging 344 yards passing a game. Michigan's averaging giving up 240 total yards a game. So,
Right. You're going to find out how good that defense
yeah.
really is real quick. I don't
Yeah,
know.
because it is very interesting. Like Michigan's offense is not really that great. Like total yards, they're 68th,
No, yeah, but Corum's going to beat you up the middle.
but they're like 60th in rushing.
Yeah. Well, they don't rush for a lot of yardage.
Yeah.
They just control the ball and play good defense. That's so Washington, I guess Texas, you got to say they have a pretty good offense, but we already knew that Washington's defense was going to be a little suspect there.
Hmm.
And so we'll
Here's an
see.
interesting one for the betters. Record versus spread. Michigan is 8-5. Washington is 10-2.
Against the spread, huh?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, Michigan probably had some pretty big spreads, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Washington, I feel like a lot of their games, they were probably not huge favorites when you consider who they were playing.
Right. Yeah, but it
But
looks like the betting money is on a close game, but on
yeah,
Washington because it's 4.5.
right. So Michigan winning by 3, but losing on the line.
Yeah.
I could see that. I could definitely see that.
And they got the over 55.5 points. That's 76% of the bettors are voting the over.
I'd probably go under. I'm thinking it'd be like a 24-21 game. But again, like it's hard to judge with Washington just because they have so many, good players at the position spots like wide receiver, running back,
Right.
quarterback.
Well, yeah, on their offense, besides Corum, I'm probably taking all of Washington's players.
Right. Well, and Johnson's, he's had a career year for
Yeah,
Washington. So
right,
but I don't know if I trust his foot. You could
right.
you could say X-rays were negative all you want, but look what happened at the end of last game.
We'll just pump them full of stuff. It's only one game, right?
Well, that's what they're doing, gonna
Yeah.
do.
Tighten that ankle up, put tons of tape on there.
Yeah. Well, all right. We're going in. That's going into see next week. That'll be Monday. Be a good game. I think it's fitting. Washington, Michigan, they're both undefeated. You can't really question the championship game, right?
Yep, they're the only
When I look
undefeated.
at these two teams, I think they're the two teams that most deserve to be there.
Yeah, in the beginning of the Big Ten, right?
Right. And Washington moving over too. Geez, what's that going to start looking like? Imagine if you get a couple years of this.
Well, I think yeah, they showed Michigan plays Oregon, USC, and Washington next year, along with I think Texas. It was brutal. Michigan's schedule is brutal next year.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
I think let's see.
So that'll be good. That'll be good for the Big Ten. I think making a good competition there against the SEC.
Yeah,
All
they
right.
they
Yeah.
have
Well,
Texas, USC, Washington, Oregon, and Ohio State all on their schedule next year.
boy, that's rough.
Yeah,
I mean, that's four potential losses right there. When's the last time Michigan lost 4 games in the
right.
season?
Yeah, because they'll be without McCarthy. They're probably without Corum.
Hmm.
Um, maybe without Harbaugh. Who knows?
Wow, it's tough. All right, well, let's jump over to NFL stuff. Um, we touched on this a little bit earlier. So before we get into like how we did, I don't know, did you look at the Pro Bowl rosters at all?
I kind of did. Some of them.
Yeah.
The one I don't get, he's a good player and everything, but how is Keenan Allen on the Pro Bowl? Hasn't he missed like a bunch
Yeah,
of
I mean,
games?
he missed a bunch of games late in the season, but he was having a really good season. So I could see it. Isn't there a qualifier? Like you got to play so many games to qualify.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just, where is the AFC?
So the problem I have with the Pro Bowl though isn't necessarily the players. The Pro Bowl's just it's kind of lame now. The old Pro Bowl is much more fun to watch. We've said this before. Even when they were not really playing that hard, it was better than what's happening right now.
All right.
So it's like I don't know, it's not that fun to watch, I guess. Yeah, Keenan Allen. I mean, he had a good season, 1,200 yards.
Yeah.
It's the
I guess
second
if
in
you
this
look
career.
at who else could have made it, because that's the thing. Maybe there was
Right.
not very many receivers didn't have a good year. I love it though that Mozart made it.
Yeah, Mozart's in there.
Mozart, James Cook, and then Derrick Henry. This is an interesting trio.
Yeah. Kind of a mix of speed and power there for sure.
Mhm. But yeah, here's the thing. It's like it's so weird. So Keenan Allen's been hurt a bunch. Jamar Chase has been hurt a bunch, right? And they both
Right.
made it.
We both made it.
And I mean, what about like Stephon Diggs?
Right.
Right? I mean,
How do Washington and the Packers both have zero Pro Bowlers? Is the question. Oh, Panthers have zero. A lot of zeros. I thought they had to have one Pro Bowl per team.
no, that's baseball. Um, yeah, I mean, who do you think would make it for the
No,
Commanders?
I'm not saying anybody could make it. Well, they traded away their only Pro Bowler, Montez Sweat.
Yeah, did he make the Pro Bowl?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
he had a
So
he had,
yeah,
he
they
had
had a
a
Pro Bowler.
he had a really good second half of the year for the Bears. He probably would have made it anyway, but
And then I mean, I who from the Packers?
yeah, the Packers just didn't have anybody playing enough. You would have thought that like Jair Alexander would have made it,
Well, they're
but
suspended him, so
all right, he just didn't wasn't having the year that he typically would
right.
have.
Well, your buddy made it. Jalen Johnson for the
You
Bears.
know, I mean, if they could agree to terms and he actually, decides to play, with the way that Stevenson's playing on the other side, it might be a good set of corners.
I feel bad because it just seems like the NFC is
Oh, it
receiver
is.
because you don't have DJ Moore should have made it, but I mean, Amon St. Brown, Brandon Ayuk, they all had great years. I would put them ahead of Keenan Allen or Jamar Chase this year.
Yeah, I can't believe St. Brown didn't make it.
Well, but
But
when you look at you got CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Mike Evans, Puka Nakua. You can't leave any of those guys off.
right, yeah, that's tough for St. Brown. Yeah, and DJ Moore too, because DJ Moore probably would have had a better year even if you know Fields didn't get hurt.
Right.
And they had a new offensive coordinator. That helped too. Yeah, so I guess it was interesting just to look at it. I always like to look at who makes the Pro Bowl, but I'm not excited at all to watch it
No.
because it's not a Pro Bowl anymore. They're going to play a bunch of games and some flag football.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun to watch, right?
Yeah. But I think aren't they bringing the skills competition back? So that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. That is probably the only thing I'll watch. So that'll be cool to watch.
See the linemen doing the tug of war and stuff, and then the 40-yard dash. See who's going to be the fastest.
You got to do my favorite's always the quarterback throw in the farthest.
Oh, right.
I thought because I remember if you remember the old days, that was like the big one in the Pro Bowl. Like they used to always like that used to always be on like, oh, the quarterbacks are going to throw it.
Right. Yeah, the longest throw. Yeah.
Yeah, and because they
But
had that forever.
yeah, the best was like they did the NFL's fastest man during the offseason, and they had all those guys out there running to see
Right.
who's the fastest.
Yeah, Daryl Green every year.
No, there was lots of Raiders that won it
Yeah.
because that's what they did. They would. Who was
Oh
it?
yeah, when they had like James Jett and
Yeah,
they had a couple other guys that they
Willie
had like
Galt.
Olympics. Yeah, Willie Galt.
Yeah, who else? There was one that was Olympian, and they had it. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do the."
Right. He's like, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna play football this year.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into last week's picks. Let's see. You guys were both 10-6. I was 9-7, so not a good week overall. But there's a couple games that were very surprising, and then there's a couple games, I kind of went against what I thought would happen just to try to steal a game. But the let's start with a couple of the surprises first. Well, no, I want to talk about the Cowboys Lions game first, actually. I mean, a lot happened during this game. You've got tons of talk about it right now in the sports world and the NFL world. Uh, really, a lot of complaining about the officials here. And I know there's been some previous weeks where they've had this, but this seems like they're really hitting it hard for this game. Obviously, the 2 point at the end where he said Decker doesn't check in when he's standing in
And it
front of
was
the ref.
super late too.
Well, I mean, what are you doing though? Like, if he's standing in front of you, like, what's he doing? Just saying hi?
All right, exactly.
He came over just to be like, "Hey, what's up, ref? Have a good play." But I mean, Cowboys are complaining about some calls that were made as well. CeeDee Lamb just went off 227 yards.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the end, comes down to the last couple plays. What do you think? I mean, I know it's everybody wants to be the coach that is like just goes for it, and throws caution to the wind all the time, and that's admirable. But what do you think about his continued just going for it all the time with him?
Yeah, that was crazy. But it's so funny. I'm looking here. Oh, yeah, it's like Dan Campbell was seeing red, and he's
Right.
like, "Screw this." But yeah, I mean, I was looking here. The ref, Brad Allen, he's been on several bad games this year.
Oh yeah, they've been highlighting him in on ESPN where they're just like, here's this, here's this, here's this.
Like the one here was the Cross-Dua game on the Justin Fields didn't get a late hit call against him that would have put you in field goal range.
Right.
Then he was also the ref of the Packers Chiefs game that had crazy amount of penalties. And then he was also the one of Dolphins Eagles where they didn't call a single penalty on the Eagles.
Right.
So yeah, it's like, yeah, you don't need to be reffing any more games.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard because, like when you look at it objectively, it's hard to be a ref, right? It's hard to catch everything. Nobody's ever going to be perfect at it. They don't
I
get the benefit of looking from the view we see the game from.
Well, what I don't like is they don't own anything. Like he came out in the pool report. Oh no, they didn't report. Dude,
Yeah,
we saw the video, them like standing there talking to you.
right. Well, wasn't it? So technically, I think it was you can't have two report, right?
No, you can.
I thought they said that I thought he said that was the problem, but
No, he said that it was
he's just sticking with they didn't report.
he's saying that the other dude reported, the one that was in the background.
Right.
So you had Sewell and Decker talking to him, and the other guy ran by behind them.
Right, right.
And
Yeah,
that's who
yeah.
they said was the one that reported. Skipper.
Hmm.
And the other thing is Campbell talked to them ahead of the game and said that we might do this play.
Right.
Like, when we were in high school with that stupid bounce pass,
Right. They still blew
we
the whistle.
yeah, we were like, we're gonna do this play. Don't blow the whistle inadvertently, right?
Right.
They told him, they warned him, this is what's gonna happen. These people are gonna report.
Yep. No, it's bad. Like I mean, it's hard. There's no like sugarcoating it. Like you can't defend them in that situation. Um, but in as a whole, though, in other situations, being a ref, it's not easy. It's the game looks so much different from on the field than it does from the
Right.
way we see it from TV. Because I can see a holding play every single play,
Right.
but you can't see that when you're on the field.
But here's the thing. You should be able to, because it's not like it's us just watching a game.
Yeah,
There's one ref
right.
designed
There's like
for
six refs
just
on there.
looking at the off, like just that's all he does. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean, so it begs the question, like, how do you fix it, or what's the real issue? Is there a lot to this? Because a lot of these old officials, maybe they just need money or whatever. They keep talking about how they're it's fixed, or there's guys out there calling stuff to have scores turn out a certain way. Like it's not as much in the NFL, but you've seen it a lot in other sports too.
right. Well, hello. We've seen a bunch of them. The uh the one I remember the most was the Terry McLaurin where he was
Oh yeah.
offsides and he actually did motion over and the guy said you're good and then they called
Right,
him offsides.
right. Well, and it's also in key situations. Like that's where your red flags are, right?
Well, that's the Jack Jones getting called for being offsides on the Colts field goal.
Hmm.
If you watch it in real time, he's like, he's not offsides,
Yeah.
in which costs the Raiders. I mean, they should have lost that game anyway. They weren't playing well, but it cost them the game. And it's for a stupid penalty like
Huh.
that. It's like, who gives a crap about an offsides on a field goal, right? It's not like
Right.
a pass interference or the one that got when they played the Chiefs and they called that one where they're like holding on the guy when you the on the field goal, they said that the guy held one of the offensive
Oh
linemen
yeah.
back up. It's like you don't, and you haven't called that in 5 years.
You're
Then
calling
you get,
holding on the
yeah,
defense on
yeah.
a
It's like
field
that's
goal.
very sketchy.
Yeah, it is. It is. And there's a lot, so that's I guess that's where all the questions are coming from. And
The best
how do
one,
you take
the
the
tuck
human
rule.
element? Yeah,
No one
the
knew what the
tuck rule.
tuck rule was ever, right?
Oh, the tuck rule, yeah.
There was no play like that ever. And it's like, where did that come up in the hand? Like, when did they decide, if this happens? Because it never happened before. How was there a rule about that?
Right, right.
And how did the refs know that rule? That's the other thing. It's like you know this obscure rule in the rule book. Oh yeah, no,
But you don't know a lot of the other rules, huh?
right,
Yeah, I guess that's just begs the question is, how much does the human element play a role in these games? How much are the refs playing a role in these games? Are these legitimate concerns and arguments that players, coaches, fans, everybody's making? Because, you look at it, when it costs you games, it costs you, it's at the end, it's in, you know, important situations. One game can be the difference between your playoffs. One play can be the difference between your whole season.
yeah. Lions could have been the 1 seed.
Right. Right. They'll be fighting for it.
Yeah,
And the problem is, what about teams that are is happening to that aren't going to make the playoffs because of it, right? Lions are still going to the playoffs,
right.
but if you're changing a 500 teams, one or two games of theirs, you're keeping them out of the playoffs. That's their whole
Right.
season.
Well, it comes down to this. If you're a ref and we know your name, that's not a good thing.
You're getting too much attention. People are looking at your calls way
I
too
mean, unless
much.
you're Hockley just because you're ripped and got jacked arms.
Yeah, and there's guys been there for a long time and been in a lot of big
Right.
games, and that you just know. But I never heard of this Allen guy before,
Right.
so it was a tough one. There's a lot surrounding that game. It was a huge game, but it was a good game, right? Comes down to the end. I think you look at two playoff teams there in the NFC battle it out,
Yeah, I think it's when it comes down to borderline calls, just don't blow the whistle. Just
right?
let the game play out. It's like, you know what? It's like the, fourth and goal and you throw it into the end zone and it's like a bang bang play, but they call pass interference. That's ridiculous to me.
Yeah, it's a tough line though, because what if it really is pass
Well, I
interference? It's
get that,
also
but if
like,
it's like he's just there right at the
mm,
same time, I mean, if it's egregious, I get it, but
right.
and actually in the Texas Washington game, you could have said that there was pass interference on that last play.
Oh, there's absolutely pass interference on last play, but that's the kind of play you let go, like what
Yeah,
you're talking
exactly.
about, because it happens within the regular flow. It's not a purposeful thing. He's playing the ball. He hit the ball.
Right.
You know, um, technically, was it illegal? Yeah, it was. So but yeah, I mean that's the kind of play you let go. I think.
But you know what? In the NFL, they would have said, "Oh, that's pass interference," and then the Texas would have had the ball in like the 1 yard line,
Yeah,
and
they
then would have quarterback sneaked in and won the game.
they might have. It depends on the script, though, right?
Right. Well, I'm telling you
It's
though,
funny.
that Washington Texas game, I was like, it's over, and then I'm like, why is this still close?
It was ridiculous how much Washington let them back in the game. then those two passes, and then Texas blew it. Worst play calling I've seen with the last four plays. That was horrible.
It was in the script.
It's in the script. Just keep people watching all game.
That's right. You don't want the 63-3 games.
All right. Let's see. Raiders Colts. You mentioned that game. That was a big game for both teams. Kind of that end of the Raiders playoff hopes, right? And then
Yep,
put
they're
the
out.
Colts up there with a chance to go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that was a big game for
Chance
the
to win
Colts,
division still.
right?
This is what's cool is like the Colts have a chance to win the division, go to the playoffs, or be out of the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why Week 18 is so much fun though, because yeah, their whole season is this one game.
Yep.
How about the Eagles losing to the Cardinals?
Hey, I said don't I
It's a
know
big one.
you don't I knew the Cardinals would keep it close. I did not think they would pull it out, but you
I
can't.
think it's the Eagles are just dysfunctional right now.
Yeah. But the Cardinals have played everyone. I mean, they beat the Cowboys too.
Yeah, yeah. That was early in the year without Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
So those Josh Dobbs days.
Yeah.
But I mean, 167 yards from Hurts and not a lot of running the ball. Julio Jones had two touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I get it. Yeah, the Cards they deserve some credit, but also it's like what's going on with the Eagles right now? But we talked
Well,
about
that
this
was
last week.
yeah. Well, the Eagles basically did was they let them in. They
Yeah,
should have blown them out, and they were winning pretty
yeah,
handily. And it was
21 to
like,
6, right? Halftime.
yeah, and then they just let them back in.
Yeah,
You got to hand it to the Cardinals though. They stuck to the run too because Connor had a huge game.
yeah, he did. He and a lot of carries too. Yeah, when you they pounded the ball pretty well, kind of show maybe a weakness for Philly there.
Yeah. Well, Jalen Carter's disappeared now.
Right.
Remember at the beginning of the year, that everyone was like, "Oh man, he's disappeared. Like he's hit that wall big time."
Well, I think he wasn't getting a lot of the attention early because, they still have really good defensive linemen. And now they're like, well, now we can't just not pay attention to him. So he's definitely getting some attention. Let's see. I mean, obviously, Bears didn't have much of a chance to win, to make the playoffs, but just how about the Falcons? They've just fallen apart. I mean, they weren't great anyway, but they had a chance to win this division at one point,
Yeah,
and they've
they
lost
still
three of
do.
their last four games.
They still have a chance.
Well, they play the Saints, so I don't know what their tiebreaker looks like, but
And the Bucks play the Panthers though, so I think
yeah, I think
the
it's either
Bucks.
Bucks or New Orleans winning
Yeah,
the division there. But I was saying, you lose three of your last four. You played the Bucks, the Panthers, the Colts, and the Bears.
right.
The only team they beat was the Colts,
Which is the best of the four.
the best of the four. Like, talk about dysfunctional. Like, I don't know. Atlanta's just, I think they blew a chance to win the division this year, and go
Well,
to the
whatever.
playoffs and have a start to a nice,
Right.
a good run, a good couple years in them.
What I've been saying every week, Arthur Smith has to go. You don't
Yeah.
use Bijan, you don't use Pitts. Pitts, like, I'm sorry. That guy should be, it's just kind of ridiculous. I feel bad for him being there because it's like they don't even use him.
Yeah, he's gotta get traded. He's got to go somewhere else for sure.
Yeah.
And then a couple of other games. Let's see. So Ravens just demolished the Dolphins. Ravens
Lamar
just
saw
looking
your
really
post.
tough.
Lamar saw your post about saying that Justin Fields is just as good as him, and he's like, "Okay, really? I'll show you. I'll put up 5 touchdowns."
Oh yeah, no, Justin Fields is definitely not Lamar Jackson, but it's the just when you look at those two statistically and you're like, man, that's not a huge difference. Why why is one, not even being considered? People keep saying they got to get him out of the franchise. It's crazy.
Well, I feel like yeah, I don't think it's Justin Fields. I think they just think they feel bad for him and they want him to be in a new situation.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. It's like Pitts. Justin Fields, you've had Getsy, you've had like, was Nagy there for him or was it just Getsy?
No, Nagy was there.
Yeah, and they've ruined him. They
Yeah.
haven't used them the way they're supposed to.
Because they switched him halfway through the year. It's his rookie year. That's what I mean. One of the things that killed him, his progression, was that when they brought him in and he just got
Annihilate.
murdered.
Yeah.
I mean, he was getting sacked 6, 7 times a game, and he just didn't have no time to throw the ball. Ravens, though, I mean, you look at this, they've got 2 losses or 3 losses, but two of them are one is an overtime loss, one's by 2 points to Cleveland, one's an overtime to Indianapolis, and then a 7 point loss to Pittsburgh. So that's a lot of dominance in a season.
Well,
Granted, they didn't play the toughest schedule.
I think early on, because I've been on the bandwagon the whole time, but early on, you and Wes were questioning the Ravens because, their offense wasn't looking good. And there's that they had a new offense coordinator. Now they're starting to look pretty good, and their defense is really good.
Yeah. Well, their defense is what's really making a difference here. If you look at like how their defense is not only is playing, but just like their scores, uh, the turnovers that they're getting against good solid teams as well. So the defense is really helping get them over the top. Because Lamar still had a lot of up and down games.
Yeah.
It's not like he's just throwing for 300 every game and rushing
Yeah,
for
but that was
50.
mostly early on. Lately, he has been on point.
Well, yeah, I guess but the Chargers game 177, the Jacksonville game 171. So it's not like but he had 300 against the Rams and Miami. But it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Last 10 games, he's only had 300-yard games, right?
Yeah, I mean, you said the Jags, right? He had 170 yards passing. He had 97 yards rushing.
Yeah, he's definitely
So, I mean, he's
what's
putting
his
it.
total rushing? He hasn't had a lot of rushing yards this season, but he's still running the ball pretty well. It doesn't say his total. Oh, no, didn't have his total here, but oh yeah, he got 90, 70, 50, 45, 39. So he's putting up a few yards. Not a ton though, but yeah, he's really balanced. He's
Right.
having some good balance in his game, I think that is real helpful for Lamar. That makes him a much better quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, he's thrown for 30, almost 3,700 yards, 24 touchdowns. And so, and then, yeah.
Yeah, so he'll come close to 4,000
Well, he's
or
not
get it.
playing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, so he won't get it. I mean, I think Baltimore definitely looks like the favorite here, right? For in the AFC. When you're just looking at the breakdown of the last games, they're on a good win streak, playing some good teams, sprinkle some good teams in there.
Yeah, he's got 821 yards rushing. to go with. So almost 1,000 yards rushing to go with his 3,600 yards passing. So
Yeah, it's pretty solid. Yeah, as long, I mean, you stay healthy. I mean, you think about Lamar, if he can stay healthy all season, what's 1,000 yards, 60 yards a game,
yeah.
57 yards a game or something like that.
Well, and then you saw what they did to. Now, granted, it's hard when it's turnovers, but what they did to the Niners.
Yeah. A lot of turnovers, but
Well, that was in San Francisco too,
I think it was more impressive watching against the Dolphins
right?
because I think they did a little bit of both. I think the offense and defense came together there.
Well, think about how crazy that is. Okay, so they railroaded the 49ers, Dolphins, and the Lions.
Right. Yeah, so I said they're with this win streak they're on, they've played some pretty good teams. The only loss they had in that 10 game stretch here is the Browns. You got to go back to like early Steelers game week 5 before they had their last loss. So I think you got to look at them as a favorite there, definitely. The AFC, you want to say it's the Niners, but they've definitely shown chinks in their armor throughout the year.
Yeah, I kind of feel like right now, though, it's just the Ravens and the Niners, and then you got
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard to think it might go any other way. Although Buffalo's playing good football right now. If they can
if they
win this
lose to the
game,
Dolphins, they might be out of the playoffs, though.
right. That's what I say. If they can beat the Dolphins and go in, with a little momentum,
I think if they beat the Dolphins, aren't they the 2 seed?
yeah, it's a huge difference between being out, could potentially be out of the playoffs and being the 2 seed. Well, let's
Yeah,
break that down for a second as we get into next week's picks here. So you got Miami has clinched, so they're in even if they lose.
right.
But if Buffalo beats them, they then become the division winner,
Buffalo would be the 2 seed.
and
Then
that
the
would put
Dolphins
them
would
at
be the 6 seed.
right because Buffalo beat Kansas City.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a huge swing for these two teams.
Yeah. And you
So
got,
Baltimore, obviously 1 seed. They're going to rest everybody. Cleveland's in.
yeah, they're starting Jeff Driscoll this week.
So they're going to be no matter what, the number
5
5
seed.
seed because nobody else can have a record as good. And then, yeah, the South, that's where the
Right.
magic happens. Jacksonville, Colts, and Texans are all 9-7. And
Texans play the Colts.
Texans play the Colts, and Jacksonville plays
Tennessee, I think.
Tennessee. Yeah, Tennessee,
Yeah, I
right?
think Tennessee.
So Tennessee's out. They don't care. But maybe they want to take a division title away from Jacksonville.
Right. And then you got and then you got the Steelers who are playing the Ravens, who are starting Tyler Huntley.
Yeah, so the Steelers have a good chance here because Baltimore could care less. Because even if they lose, they're still the 1 seed.
Right.
So the Steelers have a good chance to get in at 10-7 because Colts and Texans play. One of them's got to lose
Right.
to go to 9-8, but one of them's got to win to go to 10-7. So then I
Right. So
guess
then
that
we'd have to
that
go if looking at
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 7.
I'd have to see what the tiebreakers are for the Texans and Steelers.
Right. We gotta, that would be what's
Because they
important
got the
there.
same conference record. Yeah. I don't know if
Six
it
and
goes to
five,
division
6 and
record.
Well, if the Colts win, they have the conference record.
Yeah, the Colts will be in.
Yeah, Colts win, they're in.
Right.
Texans, Steelers win, they have you got to find out a tie break there.
Right. Let's
I mean,
see.
if they didn't play head to head, that may come down to points scored, which then the Texans would have it because it goes head to head, conference, and then points for when you're out of each other's division, right?
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Steelers. If the Steelers win, a few things have to. Here's full breakdown. Okay, the Steelers make it if they win and Buffalo loses. Okay. They also win if they win and Jacksonville loses.
Oh, interesting.
They also get in. This would be
Oh,
the
because they
crazy.
both have conferences on them too. Yeah.
The Steelers win and the Colts Texans ends in a tie.
Oh man. So
And then yeah,
what about the Texans win?
I'll
Because
check that here. But then
the Steelers could still get in if the Colts win
so
and
the
Buffalo
Steelers.
loses.
Okay, so here's crazy. So if the Steelers lose, okay, and the Colts and Texans don't end in a tie, and Jacksonville loses,
Right. And
and
Buffalo
the
loses.
Broncos beat the Raiders. Isn't
The
that crazy?
Broncos beat the Raiders. What does that have to do with anything?
I don't know. It has something to do with it though. So the Texans,
Yeah, I don't see how that would be relevant, but
let's see, the Texans, they just have to beat the Colts.
they beat the Colts. They go to 7-5 in conference. They must have a tiebreaker on the Steelers.
Yeah. So yeah, they win their in. So basically, the Steelers are the only team that needs craziness to happen.
Right, because Buffalo is a win in their end situation. Colts and Texans is they're playing each other, so one of them is in.
Yeah. Unless they tie and the Steelers win.
Yeah. So really, Pittsburgh needs Buffalo to lose
Yes.
because the chance of the Colts and Texans tying is very low. Oh well, but if Jacksonville loses and they could still get in too, right? Jackson and Buffalo. So
Was it?
still got a
Yeah.
chance. Okay.
Well, let's see. I want to see what time because they did it like so. Steelers are going to be the waiting game because they play on Saturday, but the Texans Colts play Saturday. So Saturday we're going to know if the Steelers have still a chance.
Right. Well, because the Steelers play, so they got to win first.
Yeah. And then they have to
Or
wait. They have to
yeah,
wait till the Sunday night game.
it'll be a long weekend for the
Bills
Steelers.
Dolphins. Yeah.
So let's check out the NFC here. Uh, Dallas is in, Philly's in, Detroit's in, San Francisco's in, the Rams are in, and then the winner of the South is in. So you've already got six decided.
Right.
So there's one spot, and then the Saints, Tampa are tied. I think Tampa plays the Carolina though, right?
Yeah. Tampa, if they tie, Tampa wins the division.
Right. So Tampa's win the division. But if they lose, Tampa loses, they could be
They're
out.
out. Well, depending on
They
what the
could be out.
Seahawks and
Yeah,
the
because the
Packers do.
Seahawks could lose and the Packers could lose.
Let's look at Seahawks playoff scenarios here.
Seahawks, they play.
They need If they win and Green Bay loses, that's pretty much the big, like the others have ties and stuff in it.
Right.
So they need the Packers to lose.
The Bears got to beat the Packers, and then Seattle has to beat Arizona.
Right. So let's see the Saints. Let's get crazy because obviously they need the most help.
But if they win, they win the division, so they're in.
No, if Tampa has to lose.
Oh, yeah. I thought they were playing. Yeah, you're right because they're playing the Falcons.
Right. So yeah, the only way they can get in if Tampa wins is if Seattle and Green Bay both lose.
Both lose. Right.
So
Yeah.
which could
So
happen.
yeah, Tampa. Yeah, they kind of control a lot of destinies there.
Yeah.
Boy, that's tough for the Saints.
Watch all four of them lose.
Yeah, I could see. I mean, Arizona could beat the Seahawks for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know about Carolina beating Tampa though.
Right. Well, you never know. It
That's
is
a
the
tough one.
NFC South.
I guess. I mean, Bears could definitely beat the Packers. So they have a chance. But yeah, there's a lot less scenarios here in the NFC. I think San Francisco going in there as the favorite. Not liking the way or Dallas or Philly's playing right now. They just don't look real solid.
Well, the Panthers only lost to the Bucks by 3 the last time they played, and that was in Tampa. This is in Carolina.
But they literally have nothing to play for anymore. Because even if they win, they still lose the number one pick.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't matter. But they would knock the Bucks out of the playoffs
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. It comes down to how much do they not want the Bucks to win the division.
because it doesn't matter. This whole season didn't matter because they don't have their draft pick.
Yeah. Well, I think it mattered. Like they were trying to win some games.
Right. But you know how fans are. It's like, oh, okay, we're not doing well. At least we got our pick. Nope, you
Nope.
don't.
that that's the worst part. Like, the part about the Bears for me is looking at the 3 games that they probably should have won. You know, definitely would have made them a playoff team. But the reality is they still got the number one pick. So
Right.
whatever.
Well, yeah, you had that luxury of like if your team kept winning, oh well, I still have the number one pick no matter what.
Right. And if they kept losing, I would have had the 2 top 5s,
Yeah.
which I almost would prefer at this point. But it's good to see them get some momentum to finish the year too. Like you don't want to just have another, 2-15 season, 3-14 season, something like that.
So I know kind of the answer. So they've been saying that Fields is only going to fetch a second or a third rounder, but the package that they can get for the first pick is rumored to be better than the Panthers package from last
Right.
year.
Oh yeah, because the quarterbacks are way better
Yeah.
this year than they were last year.
So how
Well,
far
higher rated.
down would you want to trade down before you were not comfortable trading down?
Well, I think so. If I'm in a trade scenario, which I think you probably have to be here, I would want to stay with one of the top 3 offensive linemen out there. So I don't think you can go much lower than like 8, maybe 9, because you got to get one of those guys, right?
Right.
I mean, I think that's you're the safest there, but they might come in, if that on their own, right? So what's their pick right now? Right now they're at what?
What the other Bears pick?
Yeah,
Oh, 10.
10. So they're already at that 10 mark.
Well, and then if you look, you could have Caleb Williams, um, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Penix. I want to do this, but some have had even McCarthy going in the top 10.
Yeah. Well, I think Penix is really moving his draft stock up right now.
Right. The only problem is he has injury, the injury concerns, two
Yeah,
ACLs.
that's true.
But yeah, the national championship will be big because both Penix and McCarthy can have huge draft stock.
They're trying to up their draft stock, and I think Penix already is helping himself a lot. Um, I don't know. Maybe if that many quarterbacks move up, maybe you can keep your 10, and then maybe you trade for like a player package like you did
Right.
this year, and then maybe take a 10 to 15 pick, but you get a really solid player.
Right.
And then if they're going to throw in a next year number one, why not? I think the
Well, I
Panthers are
think
just
it's got to
crazy.
be you're going to get next year's number one and maybe even the year after's, depending if you're doing between 10 and 15,
Right, right,
you're going to get that. Um, because like unless and it will never happen unless it's like the Raiders are like, here's Max Crosby, you know what I mean? But that will never happen. And then like I don't think Devonte Adams has as much trade value for the Bears, you know what I mean?
right, right. No, it's got to be a really good. And to be honest with you, I don't know. Yeah, defensive line might be there. I mean, I don't know what they are going to think they need because, they just got the two linebackers in free agency.
Right.
I mean, maybe you start looking at more secondary,
Right.
but the way Brisker played, and I maybe you got to move on from Eddie Jackson. But then what safety are you gonna take? I don't
Right.
think no safety is gonna be in a package for the number one.
No. I would think you would want to trade down no farther than 3. Because I
Yes,
guarantee you, the Patriots and the Commanders are going to be trying to get that number one pick.
right.
So you'll have a bidding war there. Because then if you get 3, you're ahead of the Cardinals and you can take Marvin Harrison Jr.
Hmm.
or Malik Neighbors if you decide he's better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd take Neighbors personally, but I mean, I'm good with either.
And then what you do, Steve, screw offensive linemen. At 10, you take Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers. I mean, that's a pretty brutal duo at tight end.
You can run out DJ Moore and Marvin Harrison Jr. with Brock Bowers and Cole Kmet, right?
Yeah, yeah. Komet. I mean, he really had a good year. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that scenario where people have Brock Bowers there at 10. I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to make for a very interesting offseason.
Right. And this is so the other thing that's crazy is who knows where the picks are going to be because let's say the Bears beat the Packers and the Broncos lose to the Raiders and the
Right.
Broncos are ahead of both the Raiders and the Bears. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's going to make a big difference how this last week plays out as far as their draft, and the problem is that the Bears aren't going to go into a game against Green Bay and be like, well, we're going to get better draft position if we lose.
Right.
So, I mean, even if they don't win the game, that's fine, but I don't think they're going to go in without thinking that they want to win the game.
Right.
That could be tough.
Though, if the Bears go in and beat the Packers, they will be second in the division. And so that'll be a big time win for Eberflus.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely will help them move up. I think they'll be tied.
Well,
Uh,
they'll be tied with the Packers, and then the
yeah,
Vikings
there's some,
have to beat the Lions, but
right. And there's some tiebreaker things, but either way, they'll be tied for number two.
right.
Yeah, as far as record goes. So
Yeah.
that's the important part. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be really frustrating to me if they get these really good players in and it makes Eberflus look good because I think they could do a lot more with a different coach.
Right. Well, that's where I was like, I'm glad that McDaniels got fired because he needed to play bad and lose so the ownership knows that the
Right.
problem is Bears did the opposite.
Well,
Because they
they were
aren't,
playing bad the whole time. They could have fired him at any time.
you know what that is? They're not playing for Eberflus. Like
Yeah.
the Raiders are playing for Antonio Pierce. They want him. The Bears are
Yeah.
playing for Justin Fields.
They really are. Well, and Fields is playing for himself too. Like Fields is come out and shown a lot of uh good qualities, as far as the way he's throwing the ball and the way he's moving and not making the same mistakes that he's made.
Well, just when they try to trade him, the Raiders will be happy to take him for a
Oh,
third
I'm
or
sure
second
they would get him for like a third round pick or something stupid like that.
because they don't want second rounders because they like to trade those for.
Yeah, for nothing. All right, well, let's get into week 18 picks here. See where we're at. So our week 18 HSC Podcast picks. Jump into the schedule here. First game, I think that's the big one, right? That's the Steelers game.
Yeah, Steelers Ravens.
And with the Ravens not caring about this game and possibly the biggest game of Steelers season, I gotta go with Pittsburgh here. It's in Baltimore, but really, like, their starters shouldn't be playing. Like,
Right.
maybe you play some of them the first half. You're definitely not playing Lamar Jackson. Anybody who's even potentially dinged up or questionable is not playing. Yeah, and then a second half, like it doesn't matter what the game score is, right? You're still pulling guys. So I think I got to roll with Pittsburgh on this one.
Although the Ravens will be starting Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley at quarterback.
That's right.
But no, yeah, I'm going with the Steelers too. They have everything to play for. Ravens don't. They're kind of already coasting, so taking the Steelers.
And
That's
follow it right up on Saturday. Jeez, with the Houston Indianapolis game. So Saturday is the big day.
for the first, yeah, and then we have to wait till Sunday night.
Yeah. So Houston at Indianapolis here for the playoffs in the division.
I'm I'm taking the Texans. I don't really. The Raiders were really flat against the Colts, but it wasn't like the Colts looked like really that great. So I'm taking the Texans here. I got CJ Stroud making the playoffs.
Yeah, it's not a tough game because Collins is back, looks healthy again. Stroud's back, looks healthy again. Oh, but Taylor's playing, right? So you
Yeah.
got some running game from Indianapolis. Jeez, it's in Indianapolis. I'm going to go with Indianapolis. I think it's a coin flip here. So Like you always say, you go with the home team on a coin flip. So we got a swing game starting off early. Boy, these games are going to get tough here as we go.
Yeah.
Cleveland at Cincinnati. This is an interesting game because I don't think Cleveland's starting Flacco, right?
Jeff Driscoll.
Yeah. But Cincinnati, like, what do they have to play for? It's
Right.
not like you're putting Cleveland out of the
I know.
playoffs.
It's bad either way.
All right, it's just going to be and so this means defensive battle, right? So defensive battle, Cleveland's got to win it. So I'm
Depending on
taking
who's playing
Cleveland.
on defense. This is where I'm a little skeptical because the Vegas has it as the Bengals -6. They're a 6 point favorite.
Wow.
So they've got some insight here of probably who's playing and not. So I'm taking the
That's
Bengals here. Jake Browning over Jeff Driscoll.
all right. Jeez. Inside information from Vegas, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I need a swing game to catch you anyway, so
I'm not playing. We're not playing for anything, Steve. We're already eliminated.
yeah, but we're playing for second.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are pretty much eliminated, right?
Yeah.
Unless we give Wes a zero for this week for not showing up.
Yeah.
And we still could lose.
Yeah.
All right. Minnesota at Detroit.
I'm
What do you got
taking
here?
Det- I got Detroit here. Dan Campbell's pissed. This is fire and brimstone. They're gonna run it down Vikings' throats. Vikings don't know what to do, and they had Jaron Hall in. It was horrible. Now they're going back to Nick Mullins. Doesn't make a difference. The Lions are going to win this game.
Yeah, I agree. At home, Detroit's going to finish the season strong. Uh, and they keep lowering the murder rate in Detroit the better they play. So
No,
they got to keep playing well.
thanks NFL refs for letting people get killed, I
I
guess.
know that refs. So funny. They have the lowest murder rate in Detroit since the 60s, and that's the last time Detroit was good. So Detroit got to win it at home, though. Like finish your season strong. You're right. Campbell's not happy about last week. Go heavy into the playoffs. Jacksonville at Tennessee. Jacksonville must win. It's a must-win game for them. So I gotta say they come out, they play real well. I don't know that Tennessee has a lot to play for except to beat Jacksonville. But Jacksonville, like you're a young team, like you got if you can't get up for a game like this, like then you guys don't deserve it. So I'm gonna take Jacksonville by a touchdown here.
Yeah, I agree. I'm taking Jacksonville. Although it's weird to think about it, like 4 or 5 weeks ago, everyone was like, "Oh, Jacksonville's lock," and they
Right?
just played horrible. But I got to take Jacksonville here.
Oh, here's a great game. These are the Jets at New England.
This is tough.
Oh, this is
I
probably
got
the hardest pick of the week.
I got the Jets winning. Jets going on the road to win. Trevor Siemian at quarterback. I mean, the Pats need to lose so they can stay in the hunt for a quarterback. So I'm taking the Jets.
Yeah. I mean, this is where this comes down. Like both teams need to lose, right?
All right.
Like it benefits them both in a way that they really need. New England might need it more, but at home, last game of the season, is Belichick really gonna just lay down for this game?
No.
No. Roll with New England. I can't see it. Yeah, they're starting Trevor Simeon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No way. Gotta take New England.
Come on, Trevor Siemian.
Oh, Atlanta at New Orleans. Oh, yeah. Like I said, Atlanta has done one of the all-time for me, like just fall apart into the season here. New Orleans, you just don't know who's going to show up though, so that's tough. They're at home. New Orleans typically plays well at home. Got to go with New Orleans,
Yeah, the Saints have been playing a lot better lately. Too bad it's too might be too late.
right?
But yeah, I'm going with the Saints at home. They kind of demolished the Bucks last week, so
Yeah, we really did. Speaking of the Bucks, heading into Carolina for their playoff life.
I was almost close to taking the Panthers, but I'm going to go with the Bucks here. But I have a bad feeling about it.
Oh man,
I kind of feel like they're going to choke, but I'm
can
going to
you
take the Bucks.
imagine losing to Carolina? And if they lose to Carolina this game, like
It's the
that's
AFC,
bad.
it's the NFC South.
Jeez. Anything can happen in a monsoon, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess I'm going with Tampa as well. I just can't. You can't lose this game. They're the worst team in the league. You win the division if you win.
If you
Like,
win, you're in.
yeah, you win your division. You're in. You also get home field in the first game because you win the division.
You play either the Eagles or the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, who cares? At least you're at home.
Yeah.
I mean, this is for everything. And then you're playing the worst team in the league. Can't lose. Chicago at Green Bay. I am taking Chicago here because
What? You're not taking the Packers?
I think they want to keep the Packers out of the playoffs, even though Chicago shouldn't win this game. I think it's more important to them that they beat the Packers and the Packers don't make the playoffs. And I haven't been impressed with the Packers lately. So I'm gonna go with Chicago here.
Yeah, I agree. Chicago is they got spoiler on their mind. They want to end the season strong. Well, they want to keep Fields. So yeah, I'm taking the Bears here. The Packers have not looked good.
It's in Green Bay though, so that's tough. Chicago doesn't do well at the end of the season in Green Bay. We'll see. Maybe it's a new era here. Broncos at the Raiders.
Well,
You
just
got
like the Bears, the Raiders need to win for their well, this is for their coach, not their quarterback. But the Raiders need to go out, win on a high note, have Pierce be 5-4. So I got the Raiders here winning to end the season. Plus, right now they've had the Broncos number, so I think that continues.
yeah,
Plus, it's Jarrett Stidham starting.
Jared
So
Stidham, and they know Stidham.
yep,
Yeah, I mean Denver obviously doesn't want to win, but I think the Raiders. It is probably for Antonio Pierce. It's for their morale. It's for everything. But they just want to beat Denver. I
yeah,
think too. And so I see them coming out at home and playing this game really hard. I could see Pierce really just pushing them to play 100%, 110%
yeah.
this game. So I'm gonna stay with the Raiders as well. Philly at the Giants. I mean, neither it's not super important for Philly, but the Giants obviously are well out of it. Philly can still has to win their division, so they got to play. So you got to
Yeah.
take Philly here, right? I'm going with Philly.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll have to have the Cowboys lose to the Commanders to win the division now. So,
Right.
but they're playing at the same time, so they're gonna have to play their hardest. So yeah, I got the Eagles here.
And it's the Giants.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do? Seattle, Arizona. This is a big game.
I am going with the Cardinals.
Really?
Yeah, it's in Arizona. Cardinals always play the Seahawks tough. So I got the Cards, the upset, keeping the Seahawks out of the playoffs.
Upset. Oh man. I think that's a good pick, but I'm gonna go with Seattle. I mean, if you were gonna win a game like this is an important game, you still are they winning their in? I don't know if they're winning their in, are they?
The Seahawks, they need the Packers to lose, I
They need
think.
the Packers to lose, right? So they got to win though. I mean, so if the Packers who play early, right? No, they play at the same time. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
they did all the scheduling, so no one.
yeah, no one knows. Yeah, so I gotta stick with Seattle. It just doesn't mean as much to Arizona. Pete Carroll, I think, is a good enough coach to come in and be like, look, this is a game where we have to play well. So I think Pete Carroll wills a win here. So I'm gonna take Seattle. Kansas City at the Chargers. No much to say here, but Kansas City obviously I mean they don't have to really play. They've already won the division, but they're playing the Chargers. So let's just stick with Kansas City, I guess.
I'm going with the Chargers.
Because
Uh,
Kansas City's not playing anybody.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think Blaine Gabbert is starting. Is that who's starting for the Chiefs?
Oh, probably. I mean, Kansas City literally doesn't have to win the game, so
Yeah, I think. Yeah, who else is out? Um, yeah,
I mean,
Blaine
probably not going to
Gabbert.
see a lot of
It would be.
Kelsey.
Yeah, so Mahomes is out. Who it always said Mahomes, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be everybody.
But everybody's already out for the Chargers too. This is not by choice.
Easton Stick, man.
I mean, because because well, obviously Mike Williams has been out all year. Keenan Allen's out, and
Yeah,
what's his name? Uh, running back dude. He does not want to come back, so
right.
he's not going to
Austin
be giving
Eckler,
his
but
best
Josh Kelly has had a
performance.
good season.
Yeah, Kelly's been solid. Yeah, Eckler just he's done with the Chargers.
Right. Yeah, I'm still taking the Chargers to win.
All right, well, you're opening the door for me for second place here. All I need is these swing games. Let's see, Rams at San Francisco. And then what do you got here?
I'm taking the Niners. The Rams are sitting players also. So
Yeah, I think
Carson Wentz is starting for the
Carson Wentz is starting for the Rams.
So yeah, I'm taking the Niners because even if it's Sam Darnold, that's still better than Carson Wentz.
Right. Yeah, I think you got to stick with the Niners, just overall better team, even if you're talking about backups.
McCaffrey still might play too,
Yeah,
which is
and they're
crazy.
at home. we'll see how the game goes, but I think they'll be pulling starters, both teams, pretty early. So I'm gonna stick San Francisco as well. Dallas at the Commanders. Dallas needs to win. Got to win the division. Don't see any reason for them not to play hard. And Washington has no Pro Bowlers, so Dallas for the win here.
Yeah, this is probably the worst game of the day. So yeah, I'm taking the Cowboys. Now
Well,
watch the
then,
Commanders win.
yeah, watch the Commanders win. I mean, it is the Cowboys. Let's
Yeah.
not get it twisted here. Cowboys lose the division, then they end up playing on the road, and you know have like some fault in the last 2 minutes where they misread the clock, and then
Oh,
they're out first
yeah.
round. Game of the week here, I think Buffalo at Miami.
Yeah, last Sunday night game.
Yeah, last Sunday night and last game of the year, regular season in
I'm
Miami.
yeah, I'm taking the Bills. They're on been on a roll.
Yeah,
They need this to make the playoffs. Dolphins need it to win the division, but they've already made the playoffs. So
right.
push comes to shove, you're not going to see Tyreek or Waddle or stuff because they need him for the playoffs, not for winning the division. I mean, it's good for home field, but they don't want to tweak any injuries. So I'm taking the Dolphins.
Yeah. McDaniel just doesn't strike me as that kind of coach, though. He's gonna put it all out there. So it should be a really good game. But I think Buffalo in the end is going to take it as well. I think Miami, though, I mean, you're coming off a Baltimore beating. You're at
Mm,
home, finishing the year, win the division. Like they gotta play.
yeah,
Like you gotta go for it, you know. But I think Buffalo, because Buffalo, it's life or death. Like they have to win this game.
right.
So, I mean, especially if Pittsburgh wins and Jacksonville wins and
Texans
he's
or
well,
the
one of them
Colts.
has to win, right? Colts
Yeah,
or Texans have to win, right? So now, and so if that happens on Saturday, I think that the Buffalo that just sparks them a little bit
right.
more. So I'm gonna go with Buffalo as well here. What a interesting week of games. It's always like that last week, You just don't know who's playing, who's not playing, what teams are gonna really try and who's not, and who's into it.
Right.
But there's still a few good games too. That's the other exciting part. Like these games where it's a play in, win and you're in, or you have to win and you need some help, things like that. It's always exciting. Because the NFL playoffs, it's you play a lot of these 17 games and you're gonna come down to the last game, sometimes in the last quarter, sometimes in the last couple minutes. And
Yeah,
then
it's
if you lose,
crazy.
you're out.
Yep. Hell, the NFL wants it like it was 2 years ago when it was the Raiders Chargers in the final game of the season, right?
Yeah. I mean, that could be the Buffalo Miami game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what if Buffalo Miami tie? What's that scenario?
Didn't it say? I think it was the Steelers, but it'll be like 2 years
Well,
ago.
no,
Where
because then Buffalo would only have 6 losses and a tie, and Steelers
that's
will have
true.
7 losses.
So
Buffalo
let's
should just
see
go for the
here.
tie.
Okay, so yeah, they need a Buffalo loss.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If Buffalo ties, they're in.
Now, if Jacksonville ties and the Steelers win, the Steelers are in. Isn't that
Right.
weird?
Yeah, because they already have 7 losses.
Yeah.
But Buffalo only has 6 losses, so there's four 9 and
Right.
7 teams that they beat out by tying.
So,
You just go to McDaniel and be like, dude, let's just call it a tie.
yeah,
You guys take the division. We're in the playoffs.
we're not even going to play.
Right. They just go call the game.
Yeah. So, also, it could be this game might need nothing except for the if the Steelers lose, the Bills are in.
Right.
If the Jaguars lose, the Bills are in. If the Texans Colts end in a tie, the Bills are in.
Yeah, they have a lot of scenarios to get in the
So
playoffs
it could
there.
come down to Sunday night. We'd be like, oh, they're just playing for whoever wins the division.
Right. Which that's home field advantage.
Right.
And
And who
and
wants
and
to go to Buffalo?
right in the first round.
Yeah.
Well,
Plus,
and maybe and the Buffalo has it over Kansas City
hmm
because that'll be the second round if they both win.
yeah.
So they want to go. They see how Buffalo's got to win because you get home field first round if you win home field second round.
Well, Miami needs it because Miami's not going to want to go
No,
in
no,
the
you don't
cold.
want to play in the cold at
Because
all.
look, we're talking Ravens cold, Kansas City cold, Buffalo cold,
Cleveland.
Cleveland cold,
Hmm.
Texans dome, Colts
Colts
dome.
Dome, Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that's tough.
they would. So if the Dolphins lose, they would play the Chiefs, right?
Right.
In Kansas City. So they don't want to do
Nope. That's so crazy that the Bills would then be the 2 seed
that. After all the season.
after like if so many scenarios of them losing and then being out.
Right. Well, you know what? It's any given Sunday, right? We don't
Yeah,
know.
either you lose or you're out, or you win and you're the 2 seed.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right, well, let's wrap it up here. I think I have enough swing games to catch you though.
Yeah,
We'll see
but
how
the
that plays out.
percentages. Not all the
Yeah,
swing games ever come.
I know. It always equals out in the end for some reason. Yeah, and if people are watching, listening, you can see the our overall records are in the description. Uh, like I said, just about as good a record as last year. If you played our picks straight up, you'd make money.
We do better than Bleacher Report. So
Yeah. So it's giving something to the listeners, giving something back. And then fantasy football, wrapping people's seasons up. I mean, ours has been over, but everybody else wrapping it up here. Um, I don't even know how Team John's still in it, but he could still win this somehow. I'm going to be really upset though if I outscore Big Mike for these last 2 weeks.
oh, I'm already am. I'm beating Big Mike by 50.
Yeah.
I'm pissed. Yeah, I'm beating you by 54. Yeah, I had 159.6 points last week.
Well,
So,
I'll be mad though because if I would have swapped Tyreek, I
oh
should have
yeah.
beat Team John. But
Yeah, right now you're 1 point ahead of Big
yeah,
Mike. But it looks like he's playing now, though.
right. He made his changes, so we'll see how it finishes. He's already sent over his ring size, so he's pretty
Well, it's funny, it's
confident.
showing he's still losing though to Team Knight.
Yeah, it depends. On my team's just so up and down. Doesn't you just never know. losing Andrews, losing Chubb, those are rocks in my scoring that I don't have.
Looks like I don't know what's going to happen to Raul. He will be the last place team.
Yep.
I'll have
Yep.
to come up with
Raul.
some kind of punishment for him.
Yep. Give him a nice banner to put in his yard or something.
Yeah.
So that's a wrap on fantasy football. Talk about the playoffs finishing up here, but next week, obviously, we'll have the finishing of the college football playoff while the starting of the NFL playoffs. We'll be coming at you guys with our NFL picks for the playoffs. That's always a fun where we get a new chance at winning again.
Right.
Maybe we can beat out Wes. But yeah, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for listening. If you're on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, appreciate the listens. Don't forget there's polls and comments on those as well. And everybody on um, YouTube, appreciate any likes and views as well. And we will see you guys next week for the playoffs.